Hello guys and welcome to Odds on Champions League match day 6 games on Tuesday. For instance, Atalanta, Real Madrid, Leverkusen, Inter, and very important as well, Salzburg, PSG, with PSG in trouble. And to analyze these games, we have Alvaro Romeo, we have Ronan Murphy. Hello guys, Dream Team.
Hello.
To give you some good odds for this cold weather, for this last Champions League match day of 2024. So guys, stay with us. Of course, ask any question, press the like, subscribe. Let's go on now with the show. First game, two early kickoffs. Dinamo Zagreb, Celtic with Ronan's supercomputer. We said at the beginning of this Champions League that Celtic had an easy schedule, or even the easiest in this Champions League. Is 8 points for them. They grabbed a positive draw, I would say, against Brugge and beat RB Leipzig, and even drew in Bergamo against Atalanta. So they are now somehow favorites against Dinamo Zagreb, but be careful, Ronan, because they could qualify. Dinamo Zagreb with 7 points. They lost to Dortmund and they are in a bad moment in the Croatian football, even is 5 winless games. But I always would take Celtic to win away with a pinch of salt, to say the least.
Yeah, I think we all know what it's like to play in Celtic, and their home form is splendid. Their home form is good in the Champions League, but on the road, perhaps they're not as good. But like you said, Dinamo Zagreb, they're in a bad run of form, 5 defeats or they haven't won in 5 games in all competitions, and they kind of picked up a couple more injuries. They drew away at the weekend, or they drew 1-1 at the weekend. They got another couple of injuries in that game. They have, I think, nearly half a dozen players are out injured now, so that should kind of feed into Celtic, who in Scotland they do tend to steamroll everybody, but they tend to be a team that score lots of goals in Scotland, but also lots of goals in the Champions League. This season they've had 2 or more total goals in all their games, apart from the 0-0 with Atalanta. They've had 4 or more total goals in 3 of their games in the Champions League so far, and Dinamo Zagreb as well, they've had big high scoring games as well. There's been 2 or more total goals in every single game they've played, and 4 or more total goals in 3 of the games they've played so far. So if you're not looking to bet on Celtic, if you're kind of taking it with a pinch of salt, like you say, both teams to score yes is obviously a good tip in this one to look at 165, but even more so than that probably is total goals over 2.75. That's 198. So yeah, if you look at the goals market where there could be, but I am going to disagree with you, and I'm going to go slightly with Celtic. I'm going to kind of lean into Celtic, because I think this match, like many of the matches we talked about, what the supercomputer had predicted, that they had the easiest draw of them all. This is one they should be looking to get maximum points in, and I think they can. So my tip for this one is Celtic Asian handicap -1/4. That comes in just over 2, so it looks good to me.
It's worth noticing, Alvaro, that this is Dinamo Zagreb only chance, I would say, to qualify, because with 7 points and having next Arsenal and Milan, realistically, this is the game where what they should target and win and qualify for the playoffs.
Most potentially, yeah, because if they win, they would get 10 points, and that looks like should be enough to be in the playoffs in February. But let's see how it goes. For the reason you explained before, I'm not ready to back Celtic away from home a lot. And Dinamo Zagreb are in a bad run, and that's something that we cannot deny, mainly because even Dinamo themselves have admitted in an open letter to the fans that they are in a big crisis, even though they were insisting that the crisis has nothing to do with the club, but it's a sporting crisis with many injuries as well. But anyway, this game screams goals to me. Look, let's break down a few numbers, okay? We were talking about the 2 sides that they have conceded 25 goals between them both in the Champions League, and each of them have scored 10 goals so they average 2 goals per game. Zagreb has conceded 3 per game. And if we exclude the defeat at Bayern, then the defensive numbers haven't been that terrible. That's true. But on the other hand, I think Zagreb is going to score it, and I think Celtic can score too, because Celtic is about attacking. They've got talent up front as well. And also, even the stats are backing this, because Dinamo Zagreb has played 46 Champions League proper games, excluding playoffs or preliminary rounds, and none of those games have been goalless. So that's why I'm going to go for over 2.5 goals, 177. And yes, I know that Celtic has recorded 3 straight clean sheets in Scotland, but in the Champions League, it's a totally different story.
Well, they conceded 7, for instance, against Dortmund. Eric is saying don't fall in the trap under 2.5 goals, but most of the people are going for an over for both teams to score. Actually, for instance, over 3 goals is 2.35. Theo is going for over 3.5 goals. Intrepid also both teams to score an over. Celtic usually concedes a lot in Europe, and we have a big fan of Alvaro.
I'm Alvaro's biggest fan, so he's only the second biggest fan.
We are all Alvaro's fans here.
You like me more than my children.
Next game, perhaps we also see goals because Girona is involved, although Liverpool tend to concede a few goals. Girona, Liverpool is the next one. Of course, the odds are low to back Liverpool, but not that bad actually, near 1.5. And we had a good example this weekend of what Girona might suffer when they face good opposition like Real Madrid. They lost 3-0 and after a good run in La Liga, but in Europe, Alvaro, they are suffering a lot, even with some players recovered. And Liverpool had the opportunity to have some rest on the weekend, and they are showing us that they are very strong in Europe with that win over Real Madrid, 2-0, clear win for them.
Yeah, clear win. They deserve it. It could have been a little bit heavier had they been perhaps a little bit more accurate in front of goal. But anyway, yeah, Liverpool right now is a big deal. And I don't know if this is going to last until May. Possibly not. But they have to enjoy the journey. And the transition from Klopp to Slot has been very soft as well. Liverpool was a very good side last season as well, up until April. And then they collapsed. But I think Liverpool were very good last season already, and they are very good this season as well. They didn't play in the weekend, and I think that this is going to be good because December is going to be very congested with games. So I think that they welcome that, really, because they were going to play a Merseyside derby on Saturday. Liverpool knows that they will play Champions League football in February, that's for sure, as they have a playoff spot guaranteed already. They are topping the table. They have recorded 4 clean sheets in the tournament. That's why if you go for both teams to score no 2-10, that can be interesting, I guess, because Girona could be easily scoreless in this game as they were scoreless against Real Madrid. I think that Mohamed Salah can set his eyes in this game because in this Champions League he has scored only 1 goal so far. In contrast with the 13 goals in the Premier League he has already scored, tells me that maybe Mohamed Salah is setting his eyes in this game as an opportunity to improve his goal tally in the Champions League this season. So Mohamed Salah to score 2.0 is something that I'm going to keep for Mayaka, as far as I remember. We'll break it down later. And let's see if Alisson is back for this game. I don't know, really, but 𝐬𝐭𝐿 has been doing very well as well. I think that Girona, this is it for them, really. They have 3 points out of 15. They have been scoreless in 3 games in all competitions this season. So they are a team that tends to score goals, but still, in big games, sometimes they don't score goals. And maybe what Mitchell said after the game against Real Madrid explains what Girona is about now. It's not only about the injuries, but also Mitchell said that they are a soft team. And he said that it can't be that just with 2 passes, their opponents get a 1v1 with 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐺𝐸, their goalkeeper. Girona is soft in midfield. The team breaks very easily as well. And then some players are disappointing the group. 𝐿𝐿𝐴 has been really bad this season, in my opinion. Remember his mistake in Paris. I think that in Mbappe's goal on Saturday, he could have done much more. Ivan Martin's mistake in the previous Champions League round was crazy as well. Maybe the best thing for Girona is that the Champions League is about to be over and that they are out of the cup, because in midweek last week they lost to Logroñés in penalties as well. Now they are playing Liverpool, Milan and Arsenal. 3 teams that are really good European sides. Let them enjoy it, but I think that Liverpool is going to win this one. So my favorite bet here is Asian handicap -1 for Liverpool, 170.
And remember the crazy game against Feyenoord with penalties missed, with own goals. It was a disgrace for Girona. They are having a tough ride in Europe, Ronan, and Liverpool looks so good also defensively. Remember, only 1 goal conceded in this Champions League. That's why some people are also targeting here Liverpool to win 2-0. This pays 2.7.
Yeah, I had a look at that one myself. I see Intrepid Judge in the comments has picked that one. I think Liverpool to win 2-0 could definitely be one, because Girona, they've only scored 4 goals themselves in 5 Champions League games, and in 3 of those games they didn't score at all. Against PSG, PSV and Sturm Graz, they didn't score at all. So you wouldn't be surprised if they didn't score again here. And Alvaro said both teams to score. No looks a good option, but if you want to kind of double down and try and get a bit more money from it, Liverpool to win 2-0 looks like a very good option here. And Liverpool, you imagine they're going to win this one comfortably. They're outright favourites for the Champions League at the moment, 5.5. Man City are second and 7, and Barca and 7.5 are the top 3 at the moment, according to the bookies. And going back to the supercomputer you mentioned earlier, up to the supercomputer, it's still giving Liverpool an 18.8% chance of getting maximum points in the league phase. There's a 62.6% chance of them finishing first in the league phase, and surprisingly, there's a 0.6% chance of them coming 9th and ending up in the playoffs. But I don't think that's going to happen. But they run so many simulations that it has to happen in some sort of weird parallel universe. But I don't think the universe that we're in, it's going to happen. So yeah, Liverpool win looks like a good bet, but there's not great value in there, that 149. So you want to look at maybe value somewhere else in it. Liverpool have been winning at half time in 3 of the 5 Champions League games, including both their away games so far in the Champions League this season. So Liverpool to win the first half could be an option, 197. But I like to tie that in and maybe go fully with Liverpool winning. So half-time, full-time, away is 222, all the 2s.
Okay, so maybe in interstellar planet, no? Liverpool are out of the top 4 in Earth planet. Probably they are going to qualify. 𝐻𝐵RILLA over 0.5 shots on target, 2.2. He was very active against Real Madrid, even if his finishing is not still top notch. Also, Mario going for Liverpool to win 2-0 or Liverpool to win over 2.5 goals. It looks almost like a safe bet. Liverpool to win around 1.5. Next game, Atalanta Real Madrid. This is one of the greatest games of this match day, because Real Madrid are under pressure with only 6 points, with the defeat against Liverpool, against Milan and Lille in this Champions League. Another team like a hit and miss this season. They also lost to Athletic last week, but they bounced back against Girona with Bellingham right now as the best player. And the good news, Ronan, is that Vinicius is back to try to beat this Atalanta. 9 consecutive wins in Serie A, now topping the table. Also great in the Champions League, beating Stuttgart or Young Boys. The only thing is that they are still to score at home in this Champions League. 2 games, 2 goalless draws so far in Bergamo.
Yeah, and they've only conceded once as well in the Champions League. So this kind of what kind of Atlanta are we going to see show up in this match? And again, what sort of Real Madrid will we see show up? Because in some of the games so far in the Champions League, they haven't shown up whatsoever. But somehow they're still the 5th favourite with the bookies to win the Champions League outright. I suppose we've seen Real Madrid in the past, like Alvaro often says, it's the second half of the season when they kind of start kicking into gear, and not just the second half of matches like he tends to go with, but the second half of the season too. So yeah, as long as they can kind of stick around and make the playoffs, still a good chance they can qualify automatically. There's a 16.8% chance they'll get 15 points, but there's a 0.5% chance they'll stick on 6 points. So, yeah, there's a good chance that Real Madrid will win the remaining 3 games in the Champions League. They have Salzburg and Brest coming up, so they also look like more favourable games than this. But this is one that you should think that they have a good chance of winning. You remember they beat them in the Super Cup this year. They won both Champions League games back in 2021. So, yeah, Real Madrid, you're kind of looking at the value here. You'll see it on the screen there. 2.55 looks very good for Real Madrid. In any game against anybody, you rarely get odds that kind of high. And that, I suppose that ties into the fact that Atalanta are in such a good run themselves. They've scored 2 goals in each of their last 9 games. They've won them all. So this could be one where there are plenty of goals. Goals scored, Atalanta are averaging 2.2 per game in the Champions League. Real Madrid 1.8. So both teams to score, yes, safe enough bet here at 153. But I like the look of a Real Madrid Asian handicap 0, 183 in this match.
Well, most of our people are going for Real Madrid, and they are quite sure, apart from Rick, who is going for Atalanta double chance. Looks like the price for Real Madrid 2.5 is good enough. And with one of your favorite players, Alvaro, on the pitch, Vinicius, going back to the team, there are more chances to win for Ancelotti's men, for sure.
Well, yes, but if only Vinicius is 100%. But, I'm never too confident when a winger and a player that depends a lot on his speed rushes his comeback. I think that there is an element of danger in there. So I don't know which Vinicius we're going to see in midweek, really. So if I went to an individual market, maybe Mbappé to score 2.4 would be the right one here. I don't know. Mbappé is having his problems at Real Madrid. The truth is that he doesn't look hysterical about his footballing moment, in the sense that on the pitch, if anything, he tries more and he looks upset with himself at times. But even in this bad footballing run that he's enduring, because he's not playing very well, he's scoring goals, and he scored against Girona. He scored last week in La Liga as well at home. So little by little, despite all the deficiencies of his game, as we saw at San Mamés, he couldn't, for example, cope with Dani Vivian, a defender, who is good, but Mbappé should do him. For all his faults and his bad moment, Mbappé is scoring. So maybe him to score 2.4 could be a good individual market. I prefer the individual market of Real Madrid and the individual market of Atalanta, because in Atalanta, the goal and the scoring charge are more of a joint effort. Yes, Matteo Retegui is the top scorer in Serie A, but then in the Champions League, that hasn't reflected that well. I think that Lookman, De Ketelaere, Retegui are players who can score, yes, but they are not the scoring machines that Mbappé can be in a good moment. All that said, the individual market is not even my favorite in this game. I think that the over 1.5 goals in the second half concept is something that I will be definitely thinking of. It pays 180. I think that Atalanta and Real Madrid will attack. Atalanta is about attacking. Real Madrid, if they are in need, they will have to attack, because they can be in the dangerous position of seeing themselves virtually out of the competition, especially if Atalanta scores first, and then they will have to make an effort to score, and Real Madrid can do that. The truth is that Atalanta is in a great moment. They are the highest scoring side in the Serie A. They are the leaders of the Serie A after Lazio beat Napoli. They have the top scorer of the Serie A. They are unbeaten in the Champions League, and they have recorded 9 straight wins in total. Real Madrid can be very good, but also they have crumbled against Barcelona, Athletic de Bilbao, Liverpool. Whenever they have found tough opposition this season, they have crumbled. Even they couldn't beat Atletico de Madrid. So for me, this is a goals game. I'm not going to go for the full-time result, because I cannot trust Real Madrid at this stage. Over 1.5 goals in the second half, 180, look good to me. Just a couple of more things. Who will be the centre-back with Rudiger? Tchouaméni, Asensio? This is one of the questions for me. I think that it could be either way. I don't have the answer for that. Bellingham will be playing the game, which is great, because on Saturday he had to pull out from the game against Girona midway through. but everything is fine. Bellingham has scored 5 goals in his last 5 La Liga games. And these two sides played against each other in August in the European Super Cup final. Real Madrid won it that time, but it was a very different time, really. Right now, you look at Atalanta, you look at Real Madrid, the trajectories have been very different, but in the Champions League, I'm always unable to go against Real Madrid because normally they tend to do the job. So I'm going to go for the goals market. Sorry if I say too many things. Over 1.5 goals in the second half, 180.
Well, Real Madrid need more the points with only 6. Atalanta looks like they can qualify directly for the top 8. Right now they are 5th in the standings with 11 points. Mendy is injured, so more problems in defense for Ancelotti. Fran Garcia should be the left back, and 𝐿𝐵𝐿 is also going for Bellingham, 1 shot on target. He's right now the best player in Real Madrid, and 𝐿 also going for Raúl Asensio to get booked. I also expect him to be nearby Rudiger in the defense. Well, another great game is Leverkusen-Inter Milan, with Inter keeping up their good moment. They beat Parma 3-1, is 6 wins and 1 draw in the last 7 games. Also very reliable in Europe. Remember beating Arsenal, keeping a clean sheet against Man City. They are unbeaten in the Champions League, whereas Leverkusen, they are in great form now. They had a great week beating Bayern in the Cup and St. Pauli in the Bundesliga. It's 5 consecutive wins for them, and the only defeat in the Champions League was at Anfield, Alvaro, something that could happen. So this is a great game. The bookies plays Leverkusen as the favorite. But I always like this Inter, to be honest. I think this is a very reliable and difficult team to beat.
I love Inter. I think that the best football game that could be played right now would be Liverpool-Inter in the Champions League. I really think so. Inter has been terrific. They have recorded 5 clean sheets in the Champions League. They are neighboring the top spot in Italian football. They've got a game in hand in Italy because the game against Fiorentina was suspended. That was a few days ago. Inter has a very compact style. They've been working on this idea for many years. Pretty much all the players are available, with the exception of Benjamin Pavard. And when he's back, I guess that he will start again for Inter, but Inter is doing very well without him. In the weekend or on Friday, they beat Parma comfortably with a lovely goal from Barella. By the way, we have to say about Barella, not only he's one of the best midfielders in Italian football, but when he scores, he doesn't score a lot, but when he scores some screamers. Do you remember the goal against Albania in the Euro? Do you remember the goal that he scored against Atalanta at the start of the season? Well, I think that the goal he scored against Parma on Friday outclasses those goals. It was beautiful, amazing, and the pass from Mkhitaryan was terrific too. I think that this game is going to put head-to-head or face-to-face 2 of the best left-backs in the world, especially attacking, Di Marco and Grimaldo. I prefer Di Marco, of course, but Grimaldo is good at Bayer Leverkusen. And Inter is very solid, and they didn't concede against Arsenal, they didn't concede against Manchester City this year in the Champions League. And Bayer Leverkusen, little by little, they are improving. I think that they don't differ too much from what they were last season. Florian Wirtz is taking the scoring responsibilities in this Champions League. I don't know if Patrick Schick is going to be ready. Preferably yes, for Bayer Leverkusen, because Victor Boniface is not ready for the game. And Nathan Tella up front, well, he's not the scoring threat that Schick or Boniface can be. This game is tricky. A draw no bet for Inter is very tempting because it pays 2.28. But I'm going to go for an Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Inter, either in the first half or in the game. If you go for Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Inter after 90 minutes, it pays 191. If they draw, you get half a win. If they win this game, you win it.
Great game, this one, with Inter as the underdog. Ronan, do you think Bayer Leverkusen are improving lately? Do you think they are the favorites for this game?
I think yes and no are the answer to those. They're definitely improving recently. They've won 5 games in a row, like you said, and their home games in the Champions League this season were wins to 0, including 1-0 against AC Milan. So we know they can do it. But like Alvaro said, you kind of have to wait and see if Patrick Schick is going to be fit to play in this match, because Inter don't have a lot of injury problems, but Bayer Leverkusen have a load of injury problems, especially up front. Boniface, like he said, is injured. Schick is probably injured. 𝐻𝐸, he's injured too. Hoffman, injured. So yeah, they don't have maybe the creative spark, the goal-scoring talent that they usually do in the Bundesliga last season, in the Europa League last season. So they're kind of struggling to get games, and a lot is falling on Florian Wirtz's shoulders, and he sometimes can kind of pop up with brilliant pieces of play, dribble through defenses, kind of bamboozle opposition. But at other times, he can kind of disappear for large parts. He can be a frustrated figure. So it could be one of those games against Inter, because we know how well Inter defend. So I think this, on paper, looks like a fantastic game, but I'm not sure it's going to be a really high-scoring game. I think a lot of our commenters have kind of looked at the under as an option here, and I'm tempted to go kind of down the same avenue. Both teams to score no looks a good option in this, which I don't usually say after games that Bayer Leverkusen play in, because their defense is usually terrible, their attack is great, so they usually have both teams to score yes. But no, this one I'm really kind of looking away at both teams to score no. Inter yet to concede in the Champions League, like Alvaro said, so I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Inter will be happy enough to win 1-0, I think, here, so could be something like that. So total goals under 2.75 is another option. That's a bit safer than both teams to score now. So 1.75 or 1.95 for that one.
Okay, when we see Bayer Leverkusen, most of the times we expect goals, but on the other hand, when we see Inter, especially in Europe, they try to close the defense and make a difficult game for the rival, as we saw, for instance, against Man City, or also you were correct in your predictions against Arsenal, and it was another under game. Next one is Brugge Sporting, and I think it's a good week for the underdogs because we have Brugge as a big underdog, and this Sporting looks shaky after the departure of Ruben Amorim, lost the last 3 games, and even in Portugal, they lost to Santa Clara and Moreirense. Sporting are not used to lose these kind of games. And Ronan, Brugge, 7 points in this Champions League. They are doing all right, I would say, beating Aston Villa or drawing against Celtic recently.
Yeah, they're unbeaten in 10 games, including those 2 matches. So, yeah, they're on a great run of form, whereas Sporting are not, since they've changed managers. Obviously, the new man came in, João Pereira, came in and won 6-0 in the Cup in their first game, but you don't get to play a 3rd division or 4th division team every week. So, yeah, things have been pretty difficult for him since. And, yeah, it's the first time since 2019-2020 that Sporting have lost 3 games in a row in any competition or in all competitions. And so, yeah, they're going through a bad run of form, and some of the fans have even turned on the manager already. They've brought handkerchiefs to the match on Thursday. They were waving them at him, hoping that maybe that could be the end of him already, and he's only there a month at this stage. So yeah, this is one where it's hard to back Sporting or trust Sporting to win this match, even though they should obviously be favourites. This is one maybe where you have to have a look at the goal markets. Both teams to score yes has happened in 4 of the last 4 games for Bruges, and there was a 7-0 in their match before that. So yeah, there's lots of goals in Bruges games at the moment. So both teams to score yes could be an option, 158. But like I say, Victor Gyökeres is the 2nd top goal scorer in the Champions League this season. He's only Lewandowski has more than him. He has 5 goals in 5 games. He has 25 goals in 22 games in all competitions. He was on a run of 2 games without a goal, but ended that at the weekend. So yeah, they lost, but he still got on the score sheet. So I'm looking at him as an anytime goal scorer in this one, because he is one of the Champions League top goal scorers. He is their key player in every facet of the game. So anytime goal scorer, 230 for Gyökeres. I think that could be the safest way to go here.
Well, Ivan sees goals, perhaps also including one of Gyökeres, and some others are going for Bruges. Alvaro, you also see value on Bruges in this game?
Look, I prefer to go to the goals market personally. Because Sporting Club Portugal right now is a little bit of an enigma for me. They have been very good this season, but then Ruben Amorim left and they have dropped. I don't know if they will, have a rise again and rocket up again. I don't know really. I think that the mood in the camp is not great. I was checking today the Portuguese papers, and there was an article by Nelson Feiretona, by the way, and was saying something very interesting, that the Sporting wasn't ready to lose the manager, and the new manager wasn't ready to take Sporting. So this is the worst possible scenario. João Pereira is a young manager, well, not that young, but a manager without a lot of experience that has been already shown the skepticism of the fans, and Sporting has suffered 3 defeats in a row. So, maybe Ruben Amorim's decision had repercussions everywhere. Not the best ones so far for Manchester United, and very bad ones for Sporting Club Portugal. And when it comes to Bruges, thing is, the 7 points tally in the Champions League is good. Domestically, they have no problems. They haven't lost the league game since September. They still have 13 games to catch with the league leader, Genk, who are top in the table. But is the Champions League a different level? Of course it is. In fact, their only home goal came courtesy of Tyrone Mings. You probably remember that thing that Tyrone Mings did in the box, taking the ball with his hands, and that's the way Bruce got the points against Aston Villa. But, this game is difficult to read. I believe that both of them are in need of getting points as soon as possible. Club Brugge as well, they're playing at home with 10 points. I think they can make it. And in the Champions League, we have seen an average of 3.20 goals per game if we take all the games together. So I think that this game is going to fit in that mold. That's why I'm going to go for over 2.5 goals, 167, because both sides have talent up front. And of course, Ronan has already spoken about 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐻, but when he's on the pitch, more than 1 or 2 goals can happen.
Well, we have a Sporting Lisbon fan here. Gentle is telling us that he doesn't trust his team without Amorim, and that João Pereira is the worst manager ever.
But it's not his fault. Not his fault. Amorim left in the middle of the season and left the Sporting like that.
You like to read a bola, no, with a coffee and pastéis de nata, an egg tart in the morning. There is nothing better than this in a cold winter morning with great Portuguese coffee. They know how to make good coffee in Portugal. Well, next game, Salzburg PSG, and here we have drama for PSG. Right now they are out of the next phase, only with 4 points, only 1 win in the last minute in that game against Girona. They were very unlucky with the draw, but now Luis Enrique has problems, and it looks like he's losing the dressing room. Also in France, 2 consecutive draws against Auxerre and Nantes. In Europe, defeats against Bayern Munich, against Atlético de Madrid, and they have next Man City and Stuttgart. So it's not easy. They must go to Salzburg and take the 3 points, because Salzburg, as we are saying in all our videos, is a different story. This season, they lost to Leverkusen 5-0 in the last game. So it's win or win for PSG, and perhaps even for Luis Enrique, Álvaro.
Look, if I got 2 or 3 headlines from what we have seen so far in the Champions League, one of them will be that Paris Saint-Germain has scored only 3 goals in the Champions League. 3 goals for a side that 2.5 years ago had Messi, Neymar, and Kylian Mbappé. And maybe 3.5 years ago had all those players plus Di Maria. A team that was filled with great scorers now has scored only 3 goals in the Champions League. It's not that Paris Saint-Germain is not trying, not at all, because they have taken 27 shots on target in the tournament. They are the 4th in attempts overall. They are the leaders in dribbles, but they have scored only 3 goals. And there is a player who showcases the struggles of PSG, and I think that one is Ousmane Dembélé. 21 attempts, 0 goals. Dembélé is a very frustrating footballer, and for one reason, Xavi Hernández at Barcelona first And Paris Saint-Germain now think that they can lead a project. This player cannot lead anything. Really. He is not that footballer. Every now and then on a good day, he will be terrific. And you will think that he's worth his price tag and all that. But he's not consistent. And the problems extend somewhere else as well. It's not only about who scores the goals. It's also about the goalkeeping situation. For example, Matej Safonov started the previous Champions League game. And I think that there was a rush this summer to put some pressure on Donnarumma because he was the first player that PSG signed as soon as the summer window was opened. I guess that Donnarumma will play this game. But what it is very puzzling for me is how PSG has decapitalized itself. I don't know if it's got something to do with the financial fair play rules or not, but still the team doesn't have the talent they had before. Young talent, yes, of course, but talent that wins you game in 2024 right now, not so much. And yeah, they enjoy most of the possession in the games. Pacho and Marquinhos are two of the 5 players with more passes in the competition, but then the team doesn't score a lot. It's a bit slow. And I think that PSG is the favorite for this game. I think that they are going to win it because Salzburg has scored only 3 goals in the Champions League. But PSG needs to cook the game, has many chances to score. So maybe they don't win it as straightforward as it looks, and it takes them some time to find the winning goal. So I'm going to go for an Asian handicap plus 0.75 for Salzburg in the first half. That pays 176.
Some match ball for PSG. Ivan is going for PSG Asian handicap minus 1.5. Ronan, this pays around 2. Well, if they have to win and they are playing against a weak team, we should expect them to win.
Yeah, I would be inclined to go with that. I know, like Alvaro said, that PSG haven't scored a lot of goals in the Champions League, but if there's any club that you want to score goals against, it's probably Red Bull Salzburg in the Champions League this season. There's obviously Slovan Bratislava, Young Boys, other weak teams in the tournament, but Salzburg have been diabolical this season in all competitions. They're not good in the Austrian Bundesliga, and they're not good in the Champions League either. They have 3 points in the Champions League. They've only won 1 of their last 6 games in all competitions. They are not on a good run. They're hope that mini Jurgen Klopp will come over and save things that has backfired miserably so far. And Pep Linders has not been the saviour that Salzburg hoped they were getting in, and they are not a good side. So despite all the many failings that PSG have, you should be confident of them winning this because they need to win this. They've only got 4 points. They're 25th in the overall league phase table. So this is kind of a must-win game for Luis Enrique. This is a must kind of prove themselves game for a lot of the players on the pitch, not least Ousmane Dembele, like Alvaro mentioned, who, yeah, he was inconsistent even back in his days at Dortmund before his mega move to Barcelona. This is the kind of player he sometimes shows up. He's sometimes amazing and world class, and he's sometimes absolutely terrible. So, yeah, they need the world class Dembele to perhaps show up this week. But even if he doesn't, you should be confident that PSG can do enough in this one. Salzburg are conceding an average of 3 goals per game in the Champions League. They conceded 15 goals so far. So, yeah, I'm going with Sarvar, one of our commenters. I'm going for his tip here, PSG to score over 2.5 goals. That's 210.
All right, let's see if Luis Enrique can save this match ball. Again, next is Man City, so very difficult one. Next game is RB Leipzig, Aston Villa. Leipzig surprisingly 0 points in this Champions League. They've been terribly unlucky both with the schedule and also in some games. For instance, against Juventus, the worst game probably was in Glasgow against Celtic, and let's see if they are able to bounce back against an Aston Villa that some weeks ago they were having trouble, but now they bounce back. Ronan with back-to-back wins at home in the Premier League against Southampton and Brentford. With 10 points, they will qualify Aston Villa for the next round, which is already an achievement. And we have good odds, I would say, to back this RB Leipzig playing at home.
Yeah, but I do not trust them whatsoever. I will not bet on either of these teams because both teams are quite inconsistent. Like you said, Villa had gone 8 games without a win before they beat Brentford and Southampton in the Premier League. And Leipzig, similarly, they had been 6 games without a win in all competitions, and then their last 2 games have been wins to nil in the Cup and the Bundesliga. So, yeah, these are 2 teams who are kind of very up and down seasons. Aston Villa have kind of celebrated being back in, or being in the Champions League for the first time ever. The last time it was still the European Cup when they were in it back in the 1980s. So, yeah, they are having a fantastic season in the Champions League, but Premier League hit and miss. So, yeah, I don't trust either match in either team in this match. There's still actually a 2.5% chance that Leipzig will come last in the Champions League phase. So, yeah, there is not a lot of confidence around Leipzig, having watched them so far in Champions League, particularly in that game against Celtic. These 2 teams, surprisingly, have never played before in a competitive game. They played a friendly in August, which Leipzig won 2-0, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if it was another low-scoring affair here. The total goals between the teams, Leipzig are averaging less than a goal a game, and Aston Villa are only averaging 1.2 goals per game in the Champions League this season. All of Aston Villa's Champions League games this season have been both teams to score no. Only 2 of them have had more than 1 goal, so both teams to score no is I go on to look at here, 250. Total goals under 2.75, similar is just over 2.03. But this one, I'm having a look at the corner market because I don't trust either of these teams to win at all. So, yeah, Leipzig, they're averaging 5.6 corners per game in the Champions League. So, them enough by themselves should kind of push us close to that 9.5 corners percentage. They've had that in 62% of their games so far in Champions League, and Aston Villa half their games so far this season. So, yeah, over 9.5 corners I'm looking at here because I don't trust either of these teams whatsoever.
A draw could be a possibility, as Adam or Eric are telling us, Alvaro. Could be.
Yeah, it could be. I think that this game can be tight. Leipzig is under pressure. They cannot progress, by the way, to the last 16 round automatically. It's mathematically impossible. They cannot make it. They can only qualify for the playoffs. And do you remember, Edu, those words from Hansi Flick calling November shit November? Mm-hmm. Same thing can apply for Leipzig. They had a terrible November. And you know, they have to... Aston Villa didn't have a good one too, but Leipzig, I think that it was more problematic. Yeah, they've got 0 points in the Champions League. It's true that they had a difficult calendar, and that has to be said, because they played against Atletico, Inter, Liverpool, and Juve. And they lost by 1 goal to Atletico, Inter, and Liverpool, which is a sign, I don't know what exactly, but a sign of maybe not being, sorry for this shit. They only lost badly to Celtic, by the way. But still, they have been very unlucky with the calendar. Even playing Aston Villa is not easy. But, Aston Villa, yes, in the Champions League, they've been good. 4 clean sheets. If it wasn't for Tyrone Mings, they would be virtually qualified, I think. They are competing very well. For this game, Bailey is not available, neither Jacob Ramsey, so maybe Aston Villa is a little bit more flat in attack. Leipzig could be flat as well because we know that Xavi Simons is injured until January, and he's the best player they have in between the lines. And last summer, they lost another player who was great in between the lines, like Dani Olmo. So this game can be a little bit flat. Maybe both teams find it difficult to create football at times. That can be the way the game develops. I'm going to go for a draw no bet for Leipzig, 190, and let's see how it goes. But I think Leipzig is not going to lose this game.
All right. Aston Villa over 0.5 goals in the first half for Mario. So at least to score 1 goal. And Cal also going for Aston Villa, Asian handicap 0 in the second half. In this case, it should be a tight one. RB Leipzig. Aston Villa should be easier. Shakhtar Donetsk, Bayern Munich. Of course, Bayern to win pays nothing. It's only 1.17. First trophy lost for Kompany. The cup is never easy for Bayern Munich in the last years. The cup, this game is going to be played in Germany, by the way, in 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐳𝐾𝐿 again. with Shakhtar, but this Shakhtar has not been competitive in Europe this season, Alvaro. So I guess Bayern should win, and even perhaps they should win heavily. And they have next Feyenoord or Slovan Bratislava. So I would expect Bayern to end up in the top 8 in the Champions League.
I would expect that too. Yes. Have I fallen in love with Bayern? Not at all. I think that Bayern has a manager who is definitely punching above. What would be? I will rephrase that. He's a manager that is not worth of Bayern's badge, in my opinion, from what I saw at Burnley. I think that Bayern just should have appointed a better manager. But all that said, yes, they are favorite coming into this game. That's for sure.
Well, probably
Shakhtar
was the 10th in the list, no? They were they were rejected by many managers.
Yeah, must have been something like that, I guess. There is no Harry Kane for this game, which makes Bayern obviously a worse side, that's for sure. I think that Bayern, generally speaking, they haven't suffered a lot this season. They lost to Aston Villa, and in that game they were tremendously flat. That was concerning, I would say. But yeah, they are the favorites. And to find good odds in this game, maybe you have to go for Shakhtar to score at least one goal. Shakhtar scoring, plain and simple, because Bayern, they can be winning this game, not playing with a lot of tension because they have already scored 2 or 3, and then Shakhtar can score the odd goal. That Shakhtar scoring over 0.5 goals plays 2.0. We have to say about Shakhtar that, number one, they haven't lost in the league since August, okay? But that, in my opinion, never counts too much because the home context or the domestic context shouldn't be taken into the Champions League. And Shakhtar in the Champions League hasn't been surprising in any sort of way. They won the winnable game. They drew against Bologna, who were playing for the first ever time in the Champions League in that game. And they lost the games we expected them to lose. And against PSV Eindhoven, they were this close to winning it because by the 86th minute, they were winning, and then PSV just triggered a comeback. But again, Shakhtar to score over 0.5 goals, 2.0, yes. Otherwise, this game for me is a pass.
Perhaps we see more supporters also of Bayern in this game. Is company worth the badge of Bayern Munich, Ronan?
I don't know. I think, like we've spoken on the Bundesliga shows before, I think he's the right appointment for the board because he's an easy appointment for the board. He will do as they please. He's a bit of a man manager. He's kind of a friendly character. He's not the kind of tactical genius that Nagelsmann was, or maybe the fiery professor that Tuchel was. But yeah, he's a bit more grounded and a bit more level-headed maybe than those guys. He's a bit more relatable, and yeah, he was an easy choice. Plan Z, probably, I'd say, is the one they went for because even Tuchel turned them down after they were getting rid of him. They got so bad, they wanted to get back with their ex before they found someone new. It was that kind of situation. But yeah, company, it's kind of wait and see. And with the cup gone, the Harry Kane curse continues for another while at least. We'll have to wait until May or April maybe when Bayern usually wrap up the league to decide to see whether he can actually win a trophy or not. But yeah, company is probably kicking himself that Kane is injured because, like Alvaro said, they have looked flat at times. They've been much better at the back. I think one of our commenters said that he has improved the defence, and I think the defence is a bit better than they have been in previous seasons. They have been scoring lots of goals in the Bundesliga, but with Kane out, they're kind of reliant on other players to step up. And 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐻 Musiala actually has stepped up quite a bit since Kane went down. Kane went down injured, and Musiala has scored 3 goals since then. So he scored twice again. So he is a player capable of scoring on any day. He has 12 and 19 in all competitions this season. So I think he could be a good value to look at here as an anytime goal scorer, 255 for 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐻 Musiala. I think he could be a good option because there should be goals in this game. Bayern have obviously went back-to-back wins in the competition, Benfica and PSG, both 1-0 wins. So I'm going to disagree with Alvaro's bet and go for my main tip as Bayern to win to 0. That's where I see the value here, 183.
Okay, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 is also against you. This is a company classic, both teams to score, and we should expect goals. Also, Tsaman is not a big fan of company. He compares company to November for Hansi Flick. Let's see how it develops with the big games in Europe from February onwards. And the last game, before the tipster competition, we still have Brest PSV. Be careful with this game because probably both teams will be in the playoffs. In February, they are doing all right, especially great, I would say, for Brest in the Champions League with an easy schedule, but still you have to win the winnables. They are in bad form, 4 defeats in the last 5 games, including the heavy defeat in Barcelona. They have Shakhtar and Real Madrid next. So again, it's very likely, even with these 10 points, that they are going to be in the next round. But PSV should consider favorites for this one, Ronan, and they are in great form, top in the Netherlands, 6 consecutive wins in all competitions, including the 2 in the Champions League against Shakhtar and Girona. They also were able to draw in Paris, and they are probably a better side than Brest.
Yeah, I think they're on great form in the Champions League since that 3-0 or 3-1 defeat to Juventus in the opening game. They haven't lost since, and Brest, they had gone unbeaten themselves before they lost to Barcelona, like you said, and that kind of trashing at the hands of Barcelona. But they have been good at home. I know it's not actually their home they're playing because their UEFA won't let them play in their home ground, so they're playing in a League 2 side or League 2 side in 𝐬𝐭𝐴. It's 100 kilometers away, and they're actually only getting 15,000 fans to their games there, but their home stadium only holds about 15,000 fans anyway, so it probably feels just like they are playing at home. And if they were to pick up any points here, they'd be the first French team since Lille in 2001 to go unbeaten in their first 3 home games in the Champions League. And I think that's something they can do, because PSV, like you said, they're kind of looking at the playoffs themselves. Brest are looking at the playoffs. These teams are kind of somewhere in the middle of the table, and I think they both might be happy enough with a point in this match. So looking at that, I'm going to go for a draw as my main tip in this. 375 or 365 when I looked at it last night, but on the screen it's 375, so that's even better, more reason to take a draw, because I think this could be just a draw.
It's a good one, and probably both teams will be happy with the draw. Gentle is going for both teams to score. Alvaro?
Yeah, kind of similar. Maybe an Asian handicap. This is my suggestion. Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Brest in the first half. It pays 180. If they draw the first half, you get half a win. And if they win it, you win. But, a draw could be good as well. The truth is that PSV is a much better side, all in all. I mean, at the end of the day, in their last 6 games, they have scored 26 goals, which is an incredible amount. And after this game, they will play against Red Star, and I think that in that game they can get the 3 points they need to go through. Probably it must be a joy to play for them, for PSV Eindhoven, because it's a place where you can enhance your statistics. You never show any mercy to the opponent, as we saw in November. The team is always looking to score an extra goal, and one day is Steele, another day is Tillman, another day is 𝗀𝗏𝗏, another day is 𝗀𝗏𝗏. But many players are joining the scoring sheet for this side. And Brest, look, they were competitive at the start of the Champions League, that's for sure. But the calendar was quite friendly with them, because they played Sturm Graz, Salzburg, then Prague. They got a draw against Leverkusen, which is good, and then they lost to Barcelona, understandably. Brest is a team that loses a lot of games, by the way, especially domestically. They have lost already 8 games in the league. But anyway, I think the first half can be quite leveled here. So I'm going to go for an Asian handicap plus 0.25 in the first half for Brest.
Okay, again, the draw could be a good option. Ashraf is going for PSV win or draw. And before we go for your ACAs, guys, that were mostly correct in the last European week, let me remind you that you can post your own tips in Oddspedia and win cash prizes in our monthly competitions or in our Premier League, for instance, and also that we have rivals, which is a new feature that we launched a couple of weeks ago, where you can create your own tipster competitions with your friends and also win some cash prizes. So you have public ones, and you can create also a private one with your friends. There you have the rules and how it works. And good luck. It's fun to do it. Well, let's go for your safe bets, Ronan.
Yeah, Liverpool Asian handicap -1/4. That's 135.
Alvaro?
Liverpool to win, 146.
You chose the same game. Aka, Alvaro?
Well, first of all, I have to say something to his expedition. He told me, yeah, you will like my 𝐿𝐴. I like it, but in your club, Athletic de Bilbao beating Fenerbahce, I will like it even more, my friend. And when it comes to my 𝐿𝐴, it's all Liverpool here, really. Asian handicap -1 for Liverpool, and Mohamed Salah to score his second goal in the Champions League. Altogether 340.
Okay, build a bet. Be careful also, check the lineups, because it's true. We had a comment, and it's very likely that Liverpool are qualified for the top 8, and perhaps Arne Slot wants to shuffle a little bit the cards and give some rest to the players. We all know that it's a busy December in the Premier League. And Ronan, your 𝐿𝐴?
Yeah, so if that happens, Darwin Núñez over 2.5 offsides is probably a good bet for that one.
Or Mbappe.
yeah. But my 𝐿𝐴, I'm also going for Liverpool to win and Real Madrid to win, even though Alvaro wasn't hugely confident on this one. But I like the odds. It's just under 4 for those games together. It's not as brave as 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 6-team 𝐿𝐴. I'm not going to go for that one.
Indeed, and especially including in the mix Man City or Roma, that are very shaky, or even Man United, even worse. And Tottenham, as now I can see, also very tricky. Well, tomorrow we have our Europa League show with some of these games, and in the channel you will have later our Wednesday show with Alvaro analyzing all the Champions League games. That we have some comments also about Dortmund, Barcelona. So time to enjoy European competitions. Thanks, Ronan. Thank you, Alvaro. Thanks, everyone. Bye.